Hello everyone, welcome back to Warren's Room. As promised, I'm going to be showing you how to play the left-hand part of Rondo alla Turka by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This is essentially a continuation of the right-hand tutorial where you previously learned to play the melody for the first section of this piece with the right hand alone. Now, before you attempt to play any coordinated two-hand together pieces, you should practice the right hand melody to perfection, because it's going to be very difficult to play two hands together unless you can play each hand in separation. Makes sense, right? All right, let's jump into it. So, to remind you, our piece is in the key of A minor. Tonic is the name of the home bass note of our scale, A. Now, something very important, and this applies to all music. The fifth note of a scale, be it major or minor, or whatever, is always called dominant. These two notes work together to kind of create a standard push and pull sound in music that sort of gives like music that magnetic feel, like when you hear one chord and you expect it to go to the other. That one strange chord kind of sounded natural going to that chord. So the strange sounding one was based on E. E is the fifth note of the A minor scale. The fifth note really just likes to go back to the home bass note. I'm not going to explain why, but if you use your ears and listen closely, you'll kind of get it. You'll be able to feel it. All right, so anyway, let's jump into the actual music here. You're going to begin using an A minor triad in a basic root position. Our second chord, it's 5 measures away, but we need to understand how to get there, is going to be based on E. Now, we're only going to use E, B with your pointer finger, and one more E with your thumb to create an octave. Root, a fifth of that chord, and another root of that chord. Since it's an open fifth with no middle note, it's got a very strong sound. That kind of creates a strengthier cadence, basically, from that chord moving back to the A minor. Before you actually play the notes off the page, you should practice switching between these two positions. If you remember from basic chord theory tutorials that these are two really common positions, a 5-finger position, 3, 4, 5, and a full open octave position. These are two positions that you really need to kind of memorize by feel and be able to do without looking. Closed hand, open hand. You can also practice them broken style. Kind of sounds like somebody's going on the hunt or something like that. Anyway, back to Mozart. So Mozart decided to break them up into sort of like a 4-beat waltz pattern. It actually sort of sounds like some kind of folksy gypsy music a little bit when you think about it. The left hand's going to work the same way. We'll talk about the last part here in just a minute. Let's focus on the first, say, 6 measures. Your first 4 measures are based on A minor triad. We're going to play the A and slur the A, or connect it, to the C and E. But the C and E are going to be staccato. You'll see a little staccato dot on your sheet music. So you kind of have to hop off of them really quick. The third measure is all staccato. And the fourth measure is just like the first. So all together, slur dot dot dot, slur dot dot dot, dot 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 dot, slur dot. The first 2 measures of the E section work the same way. Slur, dot, 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 slur, dot, dot, dot. Then all dots. And we'll talk about that B octave in just a moment. Let's go over the rest of it again. Okay, there's the first part. last strange E section goes through the E5 octave pattern, but then it jumps down, keeping your hand open to the octave because we're going to a B octave. And then back to E on your pinky. The interesting thing is that we're basically, just like E was number 5 with respect to A, B is number 5 with respect to E. So we're basically doing an E chord with its own version of a dominant that pulls it back to the home base for E. Now, since the home base for the entire key is actually A, we can't really end the piece on that one note. And that's why there will be more sections and stuff that come along later to make sure that we can end on a proper A chord. But we'll get to that in another tutorial. Dominant. E, B, E. An important trick about the E to B, just like we were talking about closed hand position from A, opening to a common octave position for B, this is really easy to go from E to B, because if you took a ruler and actually measure the center of the E key to the center of the E key, and then measure the center of the B key to the center of the B key, you'll notice that they're the exact same measurement apart. So when you move your octave hand, which is already locked into that octave position, down to B, don't contract or expand your hand at all. Just keep it open to the exact same measurement from pinky to thumb. And then you'll land on the B. You don't have to really focus on your entire hand that way. You can just kind of feel with your thumb and trust that your pinky will land in the right place. Or alternatively, feel with your pinky and trust that your thumb will land in the right place. Obviously, if you contract your hand as you move, you'll undershoot. Or if you open your hand as you move, you'll overshoot. So you don't want a tight hand. You want your hand to be floppy and loose, but you want to have the kind of muscle control it takes to be able to keep everything in one place as you move. So it's less about moving your hand in places. It's really just about the forearm being able to move over the proper distance. This will take practice. So you need to practice this, A to E to A, closed, open, closed, and you need to practice the E to the B octave. Once you've mastered that, then break up the patterns. After you've done all of that, it's time to put the hands together. Now, the best thing I can tell you, and every piano teacher in the world will tell you this, is to slow down. That might even be too fast for you. Plus, it's kind of long. We're talking about, what, almost 8 measures here? It might be a really good idea to keep it short. That's one measure. Carrying on into the second measure, but only to the first note of the second measure. Just long enough to carry over the bar line, but short enough to make it easier to remember. And repeat. You notice I'm speeding up a little bit too, because I'm getting more comfortable with it. Let's see, what did I say in the previous Mozart tutorial? 5 times perfect in a row? It'll take quite a bit of practice to get there, but when you get that 5 in a row, you know you've got it. Then you can add the next measure and carry over to the first note of the third measure. Whoops, I didn't do it. And so on and so forth. Now, when you get to the big left hand changing section, it might be a good idea to just start from the last two notes in the right hand of the fourth measure and carry it into the new left hand position. So basically, a pickup note, if you will. Those two notes, the A, C, carrying into the grace note. My camera is not wide enough to grab that, so kind of just use your ears for that part. And let's do it again. Notice that I'm also practicing the close to open position, but I'm not really needing to play anything in the A position first. And again. And again. And so on until you get 5 perfects in a row. Then, once you've got it, carry on forward. Lastly, you've got that transition from E to B to back to E. That's a hard one. Even I just missed. That's one of those spots that there's not really a special trick. You're just going to have to take your time, take it really slow, and drill it carefully. This is also why it's paramount to know each hand in separation super perfectly. When you can do the right hand alone that fast, and the left hand alone that fast, then hopefully it won't be so hard to try right hand and left hand together super slow. Have patience with it. Drill it slowly for maybe even 2 or 3 days, just to make sure you can do it perfectly every time. And then you can speed it up eventually. Speed always comes later if you drill the proper finger patterns and rhythms and keep it steady. Everyone wants to try to get fast really quick, but usually that'll just cause you to get frustrated. So again, patience is key. All right. Have fun with it. Post some comments on my video if you have questions. Thank you so much, and we'll continue Rondo alla Turka, the next section anyway, in another tutorial.